Namaskar everyone. In next 10 minutes we will be starting with another IG live. This IG live is with Chitra ji. So we are waiting for Chitra ji in some time. Chitra ji has done a lot of programs with us in terms of chanting, and we all know chanting is a beautiful process. Chanting involves Sanskrit, and Sanskrit, each syllable has a vibration. So Chitra ji is already there, and I think I'm allowed to start. I have sent an invite to Chitra ji, and wonderful, Chitra ji is here. Yay, Chitra ji, you managed to join us.
Yes, namaste, Shivani. Lovely to see you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and you look so good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So do you, Shivani. Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day and happy Mahashivratri, Chitra
Yes,
ji.
same to you. Same to you.
So friends, with Chitra ji, we do a lot of chanting related programs because as you know, Haloma Yoga is an ancient science for modern living. And at this point of time, we feel like uh, mental health need to be addressed. But do mental health need to be addressed only, by going to the psychiatrist or psychologist? I don't say that science is very, very important. But what I'm saying is, before that, there is some precautionary things. We can start building an ambience at our home. That ambience that supports a good mental health, good upbringing of our kids, of the next generation that is coming up. And that can be a process through these ancient science, our cultures, traditions. So, chanting has been always a Guru Shishya Parampara, an Indian folklore that has produced waves not only in traditional spirituality, but at this point of time, we can see it in corporate sector also. I recently read an article in Times of India where actually that was established that how chanting is being embraced as an activity in corporates for focus, for dhyan. So yes, we have Chitra ji. I'll not take much of her time because we are already doing, friends, a lot of programs on Haloma Yoga. There are self-paced programs on Sanskritam. It's a beginners level, foundation level program to learn Sanskrit. It is actually made for international audience to how to learn Sanskrit at a very beginner's level, which helps you to understand some simple chanting process. That's one thing. Then second is there are some terminology that is used during yoga classes. You actually get to know what exactly that terminology is. Then third thing is, other than syllable sounds, you also learn through that program creating words, creating basic
Yes.
words. So that's the beauty about that program. And then we have our favorite programs, Bhagavad Gita, level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is again a self-paced program, and level 2 is currently a Zoom live program which is happening. Chitra ji's complete focus in that program is giving an explanation but also teaching chanting. And this chanting in that program is so evident because we learn to speak, to chant through watching Chitra ji lip movement and the way she rolls her tongue, the way she speaks. That's the pure Guru Shishya Parampara. That's the that's the establishment of that program, that we are bringing the science but the culture as well. So Chitra ji, I have taken a lot of time
Yeah.
to give a brief details about the programs and everything. But now, welcome you. A warm welcome to our IG live chat on the mat. Thank you so much for accommodating our request. And it's been really late at your end, but then also you joined us. Thank you so much. So, Chitra ji, I've spoken actually a lot of thing about chanting. So, can we first start with something on chanting?
Yes.
Some beautiful lines by you?
Yes. Yes. Surely, Shivani. So I would like to chant two mantras. The first mantra was composed by Acharya Krishnamacharya himself. So I am from the Acharya Krishnamacharya tradition, from the Vinyoga tradition. So the first chant talks about the Guru Parampara. So I will chant that, and then the second chant that I will do is a Shanti mantra. And I would like to have a few minutes to give you the meaning of these two mantras, because they are very significant in light of what you have just shared about the Guru Parampara and about, why chanting is essential for mental health. So I will chant both, and then I will take a few minutes to actually give you the meaning of these two mantras. Okay, so whoever is live, kindly join your palms and close your eyes. Let's just take a few moments. Om गुरुभ्यस्तद्गुरुभ्यश्च नमो वाकमधीमहे वृणीमहे च तत्राद्यौ दम्पती जगतां पति श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the first mantra that I chanted, Shivani, as I told you, it was composed by Acharya Krishnamacharya himself. And it is basically a mantra that salutes the Guru Parampara. So the first line is Guru Bhyastad Guru Bhyascha. So I salute my gurus and their gurus. So the lineage of gurus is being saluted here. Namo Vakama Dhimahe. That means I salute with words. I offer salutations with words. Vrinimahe cha tatradyav. That means we are invoking in these gurus, that is my gurus and the lineage of gurus, Dampati Jagatampati. I am invoking the original teachers. So we are invoking the original teachers who in our tradition is basically the divine. And we are not just invoking the divine, but invoking the divine as a divine couple. So Acharya Krishnamacharya believed that the divine is incomplete without the divine. So he was part of the Sri Vaishnava tradition. See, Sri Vaishnava itself means it includes Sri Devi. So it is Lord Narayana and his consort Lakshmi. So he always felt that the divine, in fact, even when he was giving his explanation on the Yoga Sutra, Ishvara Pranidhanam, Ishvara Pranidhanatva as the first tool of, reaching that state of Samadhi, he said that it is Ishvari Sahita Ishvara Pranidhanam in his commentary of which is called Yogavalli. So he always considered that the divine should be saluted as a divine couple, which is very beautiful in the context of Women's Day, because he felt that the divine masculine is incomplete without the divine feminine. Okay, so so this beautiful composition that he has given us to salute the Guru Parampara. Now, the second Shanti mantra that I chanted, a lot of people chant this at the beginning of a yoga class or maybe in the beginning of study. So basically, this Shanti mantra is about creating the right environment, a peaceful environment for teaching and learning to happen. So there are two people who are, spoken about in this particular Shanti mantra. So it starts with Sahana Vavatu. So Sahanau Avatu is the split up of that. And basically what that means is may we both be protected. And by whom? By the divine. So we are asking for protection so that the teaching and the learning can happen beautifully. Then Sahanau Bhunaktu. May we both be nourished. May we both enjoy, because with that, unless we have that kind of environment, learning will not happen. Saha Vir Yankara Vavahai. May we both put effort. So it cannot be one way, that the teacher is putting effort, student is not putting effort, or the student is putting effort, teacher is not putting effort. So it's, basically from both. So saha now, maybe both put effort together. Saha viryankara vavahai. So all of these lines in the mantra talk about two of us. Okay. Sahaviryankara vavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu. Tejasvi now adhitamastu. That means may our knowledge be bright, may it glow. Okay. Ma vid vishavahai. Maybe not, have, maybe even if we disagree, let it not be disagreeable. Maybe not be, have ill feelings towards each other. And then Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So basically the first Shanti, let there be peace from within me, let there be peace around me, and let there be peace from the divine forces. So our ancient mantras are so beautiful because they set the stage for learning to happen. And these are such beautiful mantras. This is just one example, and you can imagine, how beautiful the oral tradition is.
I have always witnessed that example from the days when I learned from you to the days now when we are hosting programs for you.
Yeah.
So witnessing each of your live session is so beautiful, so full of energy, because the kind of chanting, because the chanting is just not happening from your end, because the kind of students who are joining your program, uh, and how do you repeat it, ask us to chant throughout the program. So
Yes.
the entire program is so vibratory, so mesmerizing. We take away a beautiful focus after the session is, session gets over.
Yes.
So
Yes,
I
Shiva, keeping in mind that since this is a Guru Parampara, nobody claimed knowledge in this tradition, or normally nobody, it's all about that we received this. So even when we chant, we have to chant with that bhavana that I have received this, and the ultimate teacher is the divine. That is basically where our tradition comes from.
But isn't it, Chitraji, that feeling of accepting and the feeling of giving has to be resonating with each other
Yes, sure.
strongly?
Yes.
It is for every system where two people are involved. It is
Yes.
for every system, every institution where two people are
I
involved.
agree. I agree.
So
But this is
now
why
I'll go.
cool, because this involves sacred sound.
Yes,
Yes.
this involves sacred sounds.
Yes.
So, Chitraji, my first question to you is, how did you become interested to mantra, the sacred sounds?
Okay.
How did it happen in your life?
Yes, I would say that I am blessed, is all I can say, because I grew up in a very spiritual environment. I grew up in Chennai, in Chinmaya Mission School, and basically my entire childhood I spent, chanting. In fact, I think I must have started chanting from the age of 4. I think the very first chant that I learned was actually the Gita Dhyanam, which is basically 9 verses and salutations of the Gita. I was really, really young at that time. I probably did not even understand the depth of those verses. It was much later in life that I actually started studying the philosophy. But the beauty is just chanting those verses. And then after that, I went on to, learn Gita shlokas. We used to have competitions in school, and we used to memorize all the shlokas. But that was a very, very beautiful foundation. So from a very early age, I realized the power of sound. Me and my sister, we used to learn Carnatic classical music also. And I still remember in those days, we never used to have phones or anything. So our Carnatic music teacher used to, just arrive at a time when we are just about to begin play or something. And my sister was the naughty one. She would, say that, oh, I don't want to do the class. But the moment we used to sing the first note, she would calm down completely. And then we would completely forget where we were. So same thing when we used to chant Gita shlokas, it was just so beautiful that we would get lost in those sounds, in those, pronunciation. And, I also learned Sanskritam in school. So that was how I started. But I came to the Krishnamacharya tradition around, say, 2015 or so. And I was so struck by this tradition, because Acharya Krishnamacharya believed in presenting yoga to the world as a holistic practice. he felt that this is the greatest gift that we have, but we need to present it as what it is. What is the original intent of yoga? We need to present it like that. It is not just about asanam, right? In the modern world, it has become only about the physical practice, about displaying what we can do. But there are so many subtle aspects of yoga that we should not lose, and chanting is one of them. So if you talk to any, or if you have encountered any old student of Acharya Krishnamacharya who are in their 80s now or 70s, or his son TKV Deshikachar sir, or his son Kaustubha Deshikachar, who's basically, so the entire tradition continues like that. So every student who has learned from this lineage, studies chanting, studies scriptures, studies breath practices, studies mudra, studies bhavana, studies so many other things besides asana. Because asana is only one aspect, but chanting is such a beautiful aspect of yoga. And we should also remember, Shivani, that yoga is one of the Vaidika darshanas. So it is basically a darshana that, accepts the testimony of the Vedas. So the Vedas are an oral tradition. So if we lose the power of sound, what has been handed down to us. So, we learn to chant the Yoga Sutras, we learn to chant the Bhagavad Gita, we learn to chant, so all of these Vedic chanting, non-Vedic chanting. So non-Vedic chanting, by that I mean anything that has been composed by somebody who knows the Vedas. For example, Acharya Krishnamacharya, whatever his compositions are, they are considered to be as good as Shruti. So they are Smriti texts basically, which are based on the knowledge of the Vedas. So we need to preserve this. And also one more thing which I want to say in the context of Women's Day is that Acharya was the first person to open the doors of Vedic chanting to women, because he felt that anybody who wanted to learn should not be barred from learning. If you have an interest to learn, and regardless of your race, your gender, whatever are your attitudes, if you want to learn, you should be given a chance to learn. So this was a very bold move that he took. Not many people were for it. He was traditional, but he was very modern in this viewpoint. So my first teacher in Krishnamacharya tradition in chanting was Mrs. Menaka Deshikachar, who is the wife of TKV Deshikachar. And after that, I continued to learn from Mrs. Sujaya Isaac, who is also a student of Deshikachar sir, for many years. So all of these women are basically taking this tradition forward, chanting tradition forward. And as women, I think we are doing a great job. All of us, we need to take this tradition forward. And just like you said, ancient knowledge for modern living, we need to preserve it as ancient knowledge. Let us not twist it to suit what modern practitioners want. Let us give it the way it is, in its original form.
So friends, I'll mention here what Chitraji explained about Shruti and Smriti. She has explained it very well in her Sanskritam program, which is a self-paced program with Haloma Yoga. That's first thing. Then second is, Chitraji, I know you from a decade, more than a decade.
Yeah.
And I know your commitment towards chanting.
Yes.
So I want to know, how do you see, and I know you from the yogic ecosystem only. So
Yes.
that's why my question is that how do you see chanting as a tool of yoga?
Okay. That's a very good question, actually. If you study the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is basically the core text, which gives you the entire philosophy of the practice. So basically, the second sutram says yogas chitta vritti nirodha. So basically, it is bringing the mind to a state of refined focus and basically sustaining that focus without any distractions. This is TKV Deshikachar sir's definition of yogas chitta vritti nirodha. This is a definition that we can all work with. Okay. So now, how do we get our minds into that state of focus? Okay, chanting is a very beautiful tool that take us there. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because in the Yoga Sutras itself, the very first tool to get to the state of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which is the state of refined focus or Samadhi, is basically Ishvara Pranidhanam. And then he says that Ishvara Pranidhanam is an option, okay? But he also explains that Ishvara is an entity which is associated with knowledge. He's the first guru, okay, who is not basically, and at that time he says, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. So how do you relate with Ishvara? Okay, if you want to surrender to this entity called Ishvara, he says that the sutram says tasya vachakaha pranavaha. And pranava basically means the mantra Om. Okay, and then he says tad japas tadartha bhavanam. So through chanting of the Om, we can relate with Ishvara. So the word japa is actually used in the Yoga Sutras as the first tool of yoga. So you can imagine mantra is the first tool that Patanjali presents in the Yoga Sutras. It's not asanam, it's not pranayama, it is not any of those things. In fact, asanam comes much later in the text, in the second chapter, towards the end of the text. And even there, he presents asanam as a way to focus the mind only. See, all of these practices are about moving prana in the body. Even asanam is about, moving prana in the body. Asanam is about making the prana flow smoothly. And mantras are a very potent source of prana. See, when you chant a mantra, you basically, as I said, the goal is yogas chitta vritti nirodhaha. So as you know, we have done programs, we are doing programs in Haloma Yoga. So as you know, you have to listen very closely. You have to listen and you have to repeat the same way as the teacher is, chanting. So that requires you to have a lot of focus. Listen, you cannot be distracted. And in Vedic chanting and all of these practices, it is very strict. So Vedic chanting has several rules. So why are we doing so? For example, in introduction to Sanskritam, why did we take so much of time to introduce the Sanskritam alphabet, the vowels, the consonants? Because they need to be pronounced correctly. And each, alphabet, as you rightly said, has its own vibration. So we need to pronounce the words correctly. In Vedic chanting, we have swaras. So there is so much of focus that is required to actually chant something. Even a small mantra, if you have to chant, you cannot chant it casually. See, we should not take this tradition casually. See, has come to us straight from the divine. We need to take it seriously. And also remember, Shivani, that when we are chanting, we are basically extending the exhale. And as you know, when we extend the exhale, we are basically purifying the system. So one of the things that we do in pranayama is to extend the exhale and make it double the time of the inhale and all of these things. So when we chant, we regulate the breath. We take long exhales. When we chant, Om, we are taking a long exhale. And then I take a quick inhale and I continue the mantra. So I am constantly working with the breath. And as we all know, as yoga practitioners, the breath and the mind are intimately connected.
Agreed.
So through the practice of chanting, you can connect with the mind, you can refine the mind, you can focus the mind, you can purify the mind. It is such a beautiful tool. It is one of my favorite tools.
So friends, again, I'll mention here that Chitraji, what she is mentioning about each syllable, the beauty about each syllable and its vibrations.
Yes.
She has taught this in her self-paced program, the Sanskritam program, which is available at Haloma Yoga. She has specifically stressed, laid emphasis that how we pronounce each letter, each alphabet,
Yes.
of Sanskrit, the vowels in Sanskrit, and how we combine it to produce different other sounds.
Yes.
So you can always register in that program and enjoy. It's a forever recordings are being shared with you so that it gives you lifelong support in terms of Sanskrit. So coming to the next question, Chitraji, how do you choose a mantra for your own personal practice and what considerations are involved in choosing that?
See, there is such a vast variety of mantras in the Vedas, non-Vedic chants, composed by masters like Acharya Sri Krishnamacharya. So one can see, if you have, say, a religious orientation, and if you have, say, a favorite deity, like for example Krishna or Rama or Shiva, or there are a variety of hymns in the Vedas.
So here,
okay.
Chitraji, the question is coming from that perspective. We get a lot of international inquiries on the basis of people who want to meditate.
Yes.
Or people who want to do japa on a
Yes.
single mantra.
Yes.
But then they are confused which mantra to pick.
Yes.
So from that perspective, we are asking this question.
Yes. I'm coming to that. So there are a lot of international students also of yoga who relate to a particular deity maybe. may or may not. So the first option is for those students who may connect with a deity, like Shiva or Krishna or somebody. So you can choose a very simple mantra like Om Krishnaya Namaha, Om Shivaya Namaha. So Namah Shivaya. So that's a very potent mantra in our tradition that is considered to have so much of energy. So things like that, if you connect with a particular deity. Then for people who love nature, there are so many mantras. For example, Om Suryaya Namaha. So you can chant the Surya Namaskar mantras, Om Mitraya Namaha, Om Suryaya Namaha, Om Ravaye Namaha. They are very short, so anybody can adapt those mantras to their personal practice, and you can combine your asanam practice with these mantras. You can combine your pranayama practice with these mantras. You can like, for example, when you are in practicing pranayama, suppose you're doing a 5-second inhale and a 10-second exhale. So while you're doing the 5-second inhale, you can say, for example, Om Suryaya Namaha. You can chant that in your mind. When you exhale, if it is a 10-second exhale, then maybe you can chant it twice. So basically, considering what is your inclination can help you choose a mantra. Of course, if you have a personal teacher and the teacher knows you very well, then the teacher can give you a personal mantra. But for all of us, universally, if you think about it, you can take, as I said, elements of nature. There are various mantras, that salute water, various mantras that salute, fire, maybe the elements, even things like attitudes like Shraddha. Like we need Shraddha in this tradition, in the Vedic tradition. That's one of the most important aspects that we need to have, when we undertake a study in, any kind of study. So Om Shraddhaya Namaha. If you remember, we did in fact, it was on Women's Day, I think, that we did a program on Shraddha, where I think at the end we chanted Om Shraddhaya Namaha. So attitudes like that. So the more we chant something like that, the more we gain those things. For example, if you look at the sun and you keep chanting Om Suryaya Namaha, in this tradition, it is believed that the more you chant, japa is like a meditation. So basically in Ishvara Pranidhanam, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha, it was about meditating with Ishvara through the sound Om, right? So you start acquiring the qualities of whatever you are, focusing upon. So japa is a very beautiful way for you to meditate also, in a way. So you can choose a mantra based on what is your inclination, and you can make that part of your practice. And for Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Yogena Chittasya, the mantra that is chanted in the beginning, then Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha. So there is so much of variety and so many options, but many of these things can be decided in one-to-one basis with your own teacher. Because your own teacher will know you very well, what are your inclinations, and your teacher can help you choose a mantra in case you are confused about what mantra should I chant or practice. Okay.
Agreed.
Hope
I
that.
completely agree with you
Yeah.
on that aspect. That even you just cannot start with chanting. You need to have a slight background about it. So one simple program where you can participate.
Yes.
Where you can understand this essence of chanting.
Yes.
So friends, we have a lot of programs in those terms with Chitraji where you can actually establish an idea about chanting, and from there onwards you can take it forward with your own practice or in your community practices about chanting. So here, Chitraji, one important question comes in. Tell me. So tell me, how, as a teacher, as a chanting instructor,
Yes.
how do you? It is very simple to teach Indian students, isn't it? Because they have a Hindi language background. But what about international students here?
Okay. So I would say that even for Indian students, because we have so many, languages, so there is a challenge to teach, whether it's Indian students or international students. And you were also talking about the script, right? So Devanagari is the script basically that is currently used to read Sanskritam, right? So if you think about it, basically language is a series of sounds. Okay, it can be represented in any script. So in fact, you know, very interestingly, Acharya Krishnamacharya used to write Sanskritam in Telugu script. He never used Devanagari. You know, so he never used what is currently the script for Sanskritam. He used the Telugu script. In fact, one of the undertakings of his grandson right now is who is going to, you know, how do we translate all this? Because we need somebody who knows Sanskritam as well as, you know, the Telugu script. So that is one thing to note, that the script need not necessarily be Devanagari. So for modern students and those who do not know Devanagari, there is transliteration in Roman script. So what I mean by that is that there is a representation of Sanskritam sounds in Roman script, which is like, you know, for example, A, then they will represent A. Then an A with a line on top will represent A. Then E will, with I will represent E. Then I with a line on top will represent E. So the entire language can be represented with the English alphabet. But there are some things called diacritics, which need to be understood very well by you know, students who don't know Devanagari. And I have elaborately explained this in the Introduction to Sanskritam self-paced program. So for people who do not read Devanagari, they can understand how to represent the Sanskritam alphabets, like the consonants and the vowels, and how to bring them together to form words. So even if you don't know Devanagari, don't feel bad, because it is not necessary. You can read Sanskritam. See, nowadays a lot of you know, books, a lot of you know, chanting books and all that are now representing it in this transliterated Roman. So all you need to know is that. And once you know that, you can read the script. And reading the script in any script, you reading Sanskritam in any script will be helpful for your mantra chanting, will be helpful for your study of grammar, maybe will be helpful for your study of say scriptural study, if you want to study the Yoga Sutras. So because as I said, chanting of everything is part of the scriptural study. And when you chant in the original, you know, the original sounds, there is something so beautiful about it. There is a connection which I cannot explain, which I'm sure everybody feels who listens to chanting or learns chanting. And also Shivani, because this is a Guru Parampara, you know, whatever your teacher is teaching you, she has learned from her teacher. And you know, it's the
Precisely.
everybody's practice there. It's like a cumulative practice.
Yes.
And this is not something that you can learn overnight. This requires, you know, years of practice. I continue to learn with my teacher because I need that to teach my students. And I have been with her for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, and I continue to learn. And you know, I find so many challenges in Vedic chanting, because they are so you know, they are like, you are looking at an entire you know, line of chanting which has so many intonations, and you know, the pronunciation. You have to take care of so many things when you chant.
I
So
completely agree with you, and I have seen that passion reflecting when we do manthan on any of the programs.
yeah,
You just don't want to do anything with the tradition. You find it so sacrosanct, the heritage, the tradition of this, and this is so wonderful. That's the energy, that's the reflection, which we emphasize on any program which is done through you.
yes,
So
yes, Shivani. And also I want to say that, you know, all of us have you know, this is like, we need to take this tradition forward. It's our responsibility to take this tradition forward. And when I see that, you know, I am representing Acharya Krishnamacharya's tradition. You know, he was the one who revived yoga in the early 20th century, and he was the one who presented it as a holistic practice. He gave us so much knowledge. So I feel a great sense of responsibility, and I feel that I should do justice. You know, so I cannot cater to what the people want. I have to present it the way it has been given to me. You know?
wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to have you. And through this IG Live, I'm so grateful that we are disseminating this kind of information, that for us, for our teachers, the knowledge really matters. And we are not here to uh, box it in such a way that we can commercialize it,
Yes.
sell it. That's not the whole sole purpose, but to give you what has been given to them through their teachers,
Yes.
which is a lineage, which is a tradition, which is being followed at Haloma Yoga by the teachers through the teachers. So support the system, friends. My last question to you, Chitraji, is, and it's out of
Okay.
syllabus. I haven't ever asked you this question, but I want to, because we have already spoken about mental health, we have already spoken about yoga. Now I want to talk about the alpha generation, the coming, this generation. How
Yes.
do we, these young kids who are so much into digital exposure, how do we teach chanting to them? What do you think? What tools a parents can use as in like being themselves as an example, or what they can
Yes.
do to create
I
something?
I think because we should not lose this, and we certainly want the next generation forward. I think one way of doing it is by setting an example. That's for sure. And also talking about these things at home. And for example, that while they are around, maybe chant some mantras, or play some mantras, or talk about the scriptures, which I keep doing with both my children. I keep talking about what is there in the Bhagavad Gita, what is there. And the thing is that when they realize that these things, they can also relate to these things. For example, yogas chitta vritti nirodhaha and abhyasa vairagyabhyam tan nirodhaha. It's about practice and detachment. And we can, explain this to our children in a way that they understand. And similarly, what does, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, what does Lord Krishna talk about the mind? Then you share that particular shloka, that the one who has conquered the mind, the mind is a friend. For one who has not, the mind is a foe. Show that immediately, show this. Have you seen the shloka from the Bhagavad Gita? Look at how, relatable this is. And they understand the mind. They know what it is about stresses in the modern world and all of these things. So they will certainly relate to a shloka like that. So, maybe you can chant that shloka, maybe ask them to try and read it, or, so we need to certainly set an example, and we need to, show that we respect our traditions, so that, they, and I'm sure somewhere, if we keep sowing the seed, somewhere it will bear fruit. Because for me, that's what happened when I started, all this when I was really small, when I was 4 years old. But actually studying the philosophy came much later, but it came because the seed was sown, much earlier in life.
I
I kept,
agree with you.
yes,
Here, I'm breaking you in between. I just want to share my life experience here, Chitraji. During my teenage, I used to stay a bit confused with, the life. We want to do so many things in life, the career aspirations, all those things. And I used to stay a lot of confused. So in that case, my mom, she gave me Bhagavad Gita,
okay,
that refer this book as you'll get solutions to it. It was a very simple book,
yeah,
and she gave it to me that read this book and maybe you'll find some answers to your inquisitiveness.
yes,
I never went to that book, but when I was in my college, I was in my hostel, I found that book. I used to keep close to that book, because it was gifted to me by my mom and all that things. But the real insight which happened to me is during my college days.
yeah,
So I started actually reading and exploring that
yes,
book. So that's how you there are always life events that lead to that breakthrough. So
yes,
again, even with the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, I was going through it as I completed my yoga teacher training course to establish Haloma Yoga. But
yes,
until I came across this Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, I think it's chapter 1, Sutra 14,
yes,
Satudirgha Kal Nairantarre Satkara
yes,
Savitodranti. If I'm
yes,
so again, that became my entrepreneur's mantra. That
oh,
became my mantra that if I have to create a firm grounded Haloma Yoga, if I want to establish Haloma Yoga,
yes,
I have to be dedicated to it. I have to be passionate to it. I have to be committed to it.
yes,
I have to follow all the activities in a disciplined pattern.
yes,
And I have to do it every
yes,
day until it is
yes,
established,
yes,
no
without,
matter what.
yes, yes, absolutely. I totally relate to that. In fact, that sutram is one of my favorite,
Yes.
because really gives you so much energy that you have to continuously practice to see results. In fact, Acharya Krishnamacharya used to say that if you take a break in practice, the day that you start is again day zero. It's not like if you practice for 10 days and you
No,
take a break, that is not the 11th day. That is day zero once again.
zero. I completely agree, and it happens there at your workstation also.
Yes,
You just take a break of 2 to 3 days, and then you come back. It's actually, you have to start so many things
yes,
again from
yes,
scratch.
yes, yes,
So, yes, the energy, the enthusiasm that has to be
yes,
maintained
yes,
consistently. Persistence has to be there. Perseverance has to
yes,
be there. So,
yes,
no matter what these management gurus, all these people have come later than Patanjali's Yoga Sutra and
yes,
Bhagavad Gita, but
yes.
everything was already mentioned there.
Was already mentioned there. And again, in terms of chanting, Shivani, I want to say that I have foreign students who chant really beautifully. So it is not like just because you are not from this tradition, it doesn't mean that you cannot chant. In the Krishnamacharya tradition, some of the senior chanting teachers are all foreigners. There are Indian teachers, but there are also foreign teachers, who are senior chanting teachers. So it is not that an obstacle that you are not from India. You can be in our Bhagavad Gita program itself. We have a student who chants so beautifully,
Yeah.
has also sent us recordings of her chanting. So it is certainly not an obstacle if you have the intent and it is right, and you are willing to work hard, because Vedic chanting, non-Vedic chanting, Bhagavad Gita chanting, all of this requires commitment, and it is a long-term practice. It is not just for today or tomorrow. And one more thing which I also want to say, which I have told you before, Shivani, that many times people listen to somebody chanting, like say from YouTube or something, and then they say, oh, I know this chant. But many times when I ask that kind of student who comes to me and ask them to chant, there are so many mistakes in the chanting, because you cannot casually hear or listen and learn. You have to learn from a teacher. Acharya used to say that this is one of those things that you cannot learn by yourself. You need a teacher. It's like any of the other vidyas in our tradition. You need a teacher to teach you.
And I
And for
think the people who are coming from YouTube learning, they become difficult for you as a student, because
yes,
first you have to unlearn
yes,
and then start the process of
yes,
learning.
yes, because those mistakes are, so firmly embedded that you have to unlearn those mistakes and then come back to the proper chanting. So that's basically what I would say, that if you're serious about chanting, you're serious about learning chanting, please learn it from, a teacher who knows how to teach chanting. Otherwise, it's like, I think, we have to take it forward as a tradition, and learn properly from teacher to student,
This
so that
is
is.
a tradition, Chitraji. This is a tradition, and this has to be established and preserved by every generation.
Yes,
And for that, there has to be people in every generation who take forward this
yes,
uh, and navigate a way for the successive
yes,
generations.
definitely.
So, at Hello My Yoga, we have taken small steps, friends. We have some programs by Chitra ji on Sanskritam for the beginners. It's a fundamental program for all the beginners.
Yes,
That's one thing. Then second, we have Bhagavad Gita programs with
yes,
Chitra ji on self-paced, both self-paced program and live program.
yes,
Whichever you want to learn, join that program. But
yes,
let's establish and learn the right knowledge
yes,
first, and then make it as a part of our daily
yes.
sadhana, daily
Yes,
practices.
yes. And also, I want to add to this, Shivani, that in the Bhagavad Gita program, we did in the first set, we did the first 6 chapters. So it's not that we taught the chanting of, all the shlokas in all the chapters. So what basically I have done is handpicked shlokas from each chapter, which are important to keep the thread of the philosophy going. Some which are famous, some which are very, very important shlokas from each chapter I have handpicked, and basically taught the chanting of those particular shlokas. And we are currently doing level 2, which is basically chapter 7 to 12. And then we will also do 13 to 18. So hopefully at the end of this program, we have students who have learned shlokas from each chapter, and then hopefully go on to learn all 700 shlokas, so that that is a goal. See, you know what? I keep telling students that it is, see, we have 365 days in a year. If you learn even one shloka, okay, maybe not the chanting, at least write one shloka from the Bhagavad Gita every day. You can complete the entire text in 2 years. So we can do it bit by bit. So similarly for chanting, you take up one shloka per day, learn properly from a teacher, and with that you can complete even in 2.5, 3 years. It is about, again, Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantarya Satkara. So basically on with that commitment, so we need to be committed to this as a tool, because it is a very, very beautiful tool. It can help, basically unravel us, and remember that we are trying to realize our true nature, realize the Purusha or the divine, if that is in us. And this is such a beautiful way for us to access the divine. We can purify the mind and we can see with clarity, take our spiritual practice forward. Let us not forget that yoga is a spiritual school. So it is not about just practicing a few asanas and be done with it. So if we combine mantra with, all the practices, make them samantraka, is what Acharya used to say. Samantraka, like all the practices in yoga can become even more beautiful. So chanting as a tool by itself is beautiful. Combined with other tools, it makes it even more beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Agreed. Completely agreed. And that reminds me that there are few teachers, while teaching asana, they chant mantra.
Yes,
They chant mantra. And it becomes so beautiful. The class ambience is so beautiful that you don't have to run any kind of music, but your own audio is enough to give that a complete feel to the students.
Yes, we see generally, like for example, in Surya Namaskar, the mantras are chanted. There are Vedic Surya Namaskar mantras as well, which can be chanted Om, Ram, Hreem, and all of those things. So there are Vedic mantras, there are so many options to combine mantra with asana, so it is very beautiful. Similarly with pranayama, with meditative practices as with japa. So it's a beautiful tool and we should not ignore it as a tool of yoga. That was basically my intent, through this IG Live program.
I know. And it makes sense. It really makes sense that to introduce chanting in your daily life, friends. So here, I would just give you one message before leaving, that chanting is beautiful. Chanting can be a way to start mental exercise. Chanting can be a way to start your physical exercise also. And chanting is a bridge between your Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, and Manomaya Kosha. And then the journey will go. The introspection will begin towards Ananda. But you have to actually start that journey.
Yes.
So here, Chitraji, thank you so much. And we have all the programs of Friends Chitraji on our website. You can always visit www.hellomyyoga.com.
Yes.
And on 11th, we are getting Dr. Vinita Ketkar, similarly, to talk to us on a different subject. It's a postmenopausal care, where she'll be speaking about how and where she finds yoga as a tool for postmenopausal management. So we'll see you on Monday at 11 a.m. So thank you so much, Chitraji, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shivani. It was an honor to be here. Yeah, thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.